Welcome back to the Full Force Combat podcast. It's the first one of the year. We're going to touch on 2025. We're going to look ahead to a massive year across a few different disciplines. But firstly, how are we, boys? And how is the weight looking after the Christmas and New Year period?
It's looking okay. It's looking okay. I think it's more the numbers not gone up, but the body fat has. So we'll try and work on that as we go up. But not too bad. Looking forward to tonight and obviously everything we've got ahead as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, my weight's pretty spot on. I put on a little bit of chubbiness to say, but I didn't try to tail off too much over the Christmas period. With the forge being shut, I just tried to make sure I was in like pure gym, which never shuts. Yeah. It's open 24 hours a day, so I'm not too bad. Got a bit on air light, but it's just standard, isn't it?
Absolutely. But speaking of the forge, I want to dive straight into the MMA side of things. And recently, we've announced our partnerships for the year. One of them being Elite Combat Championship, which your gym mate and boy, Jack Bangs, was in the main event the other week, which me and Mason Potter commentated on. They're doing good things as a promotion. They're setting different weight classes. They're doing it really structured. They had a hell of a lot of fights, so I cannot mention them all. There was 30 fights, I think, or 31 fights, which is a crazy number. So I can't sit here and raffle off 62 names and mention everybody and give them a good mention. So just the main event, Ryan Dobinson and Jack Bangs, what a hell of a main event it was. What a product they are delivering. They're on FCC TV as a partnership for 2026. They're doing great things. So everybody be sure to stay locked in for all them. Our second partnership, WCU, Steve Rook, Mr. Undeniable, has given us the partnership there for 2026 off the back of the stuff with Undeniable on HBO. So really appreciate that. And we're locked in to do big things this year. We've got a calendar from March the 20th, the first show is, right the way through to December the 11th. And we'll likely maybe one or two more added. He's a very busy man. Shout out to WCU as well, one of the best unlicensed promotions in the UK. They have a no journeyman policy. It's matched 50-50 and the ticket commission is very good. Got a good reputation. We've got the long-term backing for Notorious TV, and we boys know how good they are. So long may that continue. And partnerships, the big one for us, the one that's like our baby now that we're nurturing from the start. We've been in it from the start. HBO Undeniable partnership. We've had shows 1 and 2, which we're knocked out the park. And speaking of knock out the park, it was knockout central. So the product is good. The shows are going to get bigger. The names are going to get bigger. We've got Manchester, Ireland, Germany, Italy all next year sharing cards with pro boxing fights and WBC title fights. There's that many W's and C's flying about. I don't want to get them muddled up. But yeah, we're absolutely all rocking and rolling there. So just before we move on to the next part, what are we thinking for HBO and Undeniable, boys? What are your thoughts now you've had a few weeks away from it all? How much are you looking forward to getting back in the mix again?
I can't wait. It's going to be really good. I mean, I've seen some of the fight news early on, just coming on Instagram, seeing Zed Williams, Gareth McCormack. I mean, that's a hell of a fight. Ooh. Just to get the palate going, just to get excited about it. You've got the prize fighter, and then it's that European takeover that we're also excited for. It's going to be, as you mentioned, Ireland, Germany, Italy. It's going to get bigger, and there's going to be big names. There's going to be bigger fights. Now it's we've joined in from the ground off, so I think it's going to be huge next year and continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Nathan, it's only going to get bigger and better here. So me and Dan was at the first show, and then just to see, even from the first show to the second, just how much the level went up by, even just by one show. It was great, really. Really thankful to be a part of it. Like Dan said, we're going to try nurture and try and make this like our baby now. And I think if they're going to keep improving like they have been, then sky's the limit for them. I know. So when's the next show? In March? So something like that?
March 14th.
March 14th, yes, in Manchester too, I believe. So let's have it. The Zed Williams and Gareth McCormack fight. What an absolute matchmaking masterclass that was. You got the amateur knockout artist Zach Williams against Gareth, who's coming who had his pro debut on 2. Obviously, he stopped JJ Smith with body shots. Now, I think that's good enough for a main event. But obviously, the prize fighter is the cherry on top of it all. Now, but yeah, I've not seen many names be announced for that yet. But I'm excited to see where it goes, and I know that there's a good few big names in the mix that haven't been spoken about yet. So I'm happy to see where that goes, and yeah, bring it on, baby, on the comms. Let's go, full force, living it up.
Absolutely, bring it on. The prize fighter, the names will be announced within due course. I'd imagine over the next week or so, the announcements will start coming thick and fast. I'd imagine the posters are prepped, everyone's getting geared up. It's just about when and timing, isn't it? But just to touch on that heavyweight matchup, I think it happened naturally as well. I think from Gareth's point of view, Zach sort of rubbed him up the wrong way for no reason. Zach responded. They've had a little bit of back and forth. And the interesting thing for me stylistically, both of them have won their fights. Well, not so much Zach's second one. He just sort of like pummeled Billy. But Zach's first one, he won by a counter shot knockout against Shaggy. Shaggy's come wading in and Zach's caught him with the overhand left. And it was the same for the big man in his fight on Undeniable Fight Night 2, JJ Smith. There was some beautiful counter shots there. So that's a very interesting matchup. None of them have gone the distance in hybrid. So it's interesting to see if they'll be able to take each other's work, if they're able to lay into each other and make it into a bit of a war. Do you know what I mean? But as a 3-round war or 5 rounds, if it gets sanctioned for the title fight, who knows? But we also have Dan Moss, who is as slick as anything, who was looking for any given challenge at middleweight. We had Conrad Stadler, who was the cruiserweight champion. So that's an opening there. I don't know if the title fight's going to be put in the hybrid prize fighter there. But yeah, boys, what a year we've got. Like Nathan said, the international takeover, baby, and we are definitely all in. But just to steer away a little bit, to touch back on 2025 and the European takeover. The European takeover, and they have definitely took over, is the MMA promotion that we cover more than any, is Oktagon MMA. Oktagon 81. What a pleasure it was to be there. Will fucking Fleury is the man. Wow, Nathan. We was kind of rooting for him and had a suspicion that he was going to do it. Did we feel really or did anybody have an inkling that he was going to do it in such spectacular fashion?
I no, to be honest, no. I mean, I guess, you're closer to the source and you were certainly more confident than I was. I mean, I spoke to him in the summer, I believe, and he was talking about being triple champ. And then obviously this fight came about, this Martin Buday fight, which, looked scary, 7-1 in the UFC, had a really, really, people saying, why has he been released? It was because of his style or whatever, but he was a winner and this is a sport and he was winning a lot. Will Fleury, just any doubt I had, any doubt anyone had, just shut it down so quickly. That is, I think a lot of people have known that Will is a great fighter, but there's probably a few understandable questions about what level that leads to. But this answered it. He's at a top level now. And, look, if certain rumors are true regarding the middleweight division and what might happen after that, there might be a slot to become triple champ as well. So how exciting is that? And I mean, this is a big coming out party for Will Fleury. For those who weren't in the know, now they know.
Yeah. I mean, if you remember, boys, when it first got called, I called it. I said, Will Fleury is going to knock out the giant Martin Buday. I said it. I called it. But to be completely honest, as time went on, I was actually getting a bit nervous for him. I was looking at some of the promotional videos and I was thinking, it's a tough one. It's a bit of a tough cookie here, this Martin Buday. And then Will TKOs him in what, a minute and a half. Like Nathan said, a guy's gone 7-1 in the UFC, fought against a good caliber of dudes and beaten them. And Will Fleury goes out there and beats him in a minute and a half. He went giant hunting, got him in the sights. He threw like a T. Will's caught it, smacked him. Martin spat around, whoa! and then Will's just carried on hitting him. Martin's on the cage. All she wrote, David and Goliath. Will went giant hunting and killed it. Buzzing. Well done, Will.
Absolutely. Before I praise my man, Will Fleury, everyone knows how close I am to Will. But before I praise Will Fleury, I just want to give props to Martin Buday. because he come in and let's have it right. As much as it was a big challenge for Will, and this is the sizable object that was in front of him, the man mountain that was in front of him, the record, the reputation, everything, former Octagon champion, everything, the Slovak, the man really for that Central European scene to return to try and take his heavyweight title back. Yeah, everything was kind of in Martin Bidet's favour. However, nobody looked at it from the flip side. Will Fleury was on a steaming run. He made a statement when he signed with Octagon. He blitzed through everybody. The legends, the up-and-comers, any challenge. He was rendering lads out in 70 seconds in the stadium last year. Nearly 18 months ago now, 16 months ago or something. So let's have it right. It was a sizable task for Martin Bidet as much as it was for Will Fleury, you know? Because Will's very skillful. He's also an ADCC champion, God knows how many times. He's operated at a high level. He's just not had the chance and the opportunity to show how good he was up until he signed with Octagon. I think nobody can argue now with how great Will Fleury is with signing for Octagon in April 24 and look what he's done. And he's had hand surgery within that time as well. Been injured. Now he's just a different caliber of opponent now. Now what's next? I would obviously, my preference would for him to go into the UFC and get an opportunity to fight the boys at the highest level. However, he has said that the terms would have to be right. There's no way that they're not looking, that their matchmakers aren't looking at Will Fleury. No, not a chance. After he's won the light heavyweight title, won the heavyweight title, and then defended it against one of their former guys. So the terms would have to be right. However, the terms and the prospects of being a triple weight champion in probably the second major promotion in the world in terms of the sizable and fans and audience and everything that comes with Octagon. I know PFL pay more and they have got some big names. However, nobody puts bums on seats like Octagon to say this time and time again, and that's what it is about. So for me, if Will Fleury wants to do that, I would fully jump. I've got to fully jump on board, but with whatever he does. But yeah, for me, as a selfish point of view, and for him, for me being selfish for him as well, because I think that would be, like you said, he said legacy a lot, time and time again. But nothing would beat that. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody. You know, everyone's been not everybody, but loads of people have been a double champion now. Since Conor did it now, there's been big influx of him over the years. But imagine it, Will Fleury triple champ, him and Muradov, Czech Republic, something like that. Don't know. But yeah, what a night. But Octagon as a year, as a whole, they've had another good year, haven't they, Nath?
Yeah, been another great year. We've been to a number of shows, had multiple representatives across the year, Frankfurt, Prague, just great fun. And again, look, no one really does that big show like Octagon now. And to be honest, I think that is the standard, really, especially, you look at a company like UFC. And just to go back on the point about Will Fleury, yes, of course, he deserves the UFC, and as a fighter, he's at that level. But I kind of love the idea of him being like Octagon's guy and being like building himself and being the face or that near enough of that company and being that guy that you think of when you think Octagon. I think that there's something cool to that. I'd love a MMA world where it's not just UFC. And I think you're probably the closest you're going to get is with Octagon because, PFL, they're not serious. And there's not really anyone else outside of that. So I think it's been another great year for Octagon. It's not come without challenges and issues and fighters leaving and injuries and all the usual stuff that comes with, I assume, running an MMA promotion. But again, they're set up big next year. They've got some big plans. I know Poland's one that they're a new location they're entering into. And then obviously you've still got the big stadium, Eintracht Frankfurt again. So looking forward to that and seeing exactly who comes in, because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know if we're going to get some new guys coming in from the UFC, especially they're being a lot more ruthless with their cuts. As we saw, even though both of them lost, two guys that had winning records were fighting on that card the other week. And so, yeah, it's going to be exciting. You never know what's going to happen, but a good show is guaranteed with Octagon in terms of the theatrics and the spectacle. And that's something that I think is missing from MMA. And I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, for me with Octagon, obviously I was onto it for a couple of years anyway, because I went to watch them when they was in Manchester, followed the whole England versus Ireland thing. But for me, this entire year for Octagon has just been an eye-opener at kind of the grand scale of what it is they're doing and how good the product actually is. I mean, I got to see it firsthand myself in Prague when we all went down for Mola and Attila V3. You know, and just seeing a football stadium filled with that many people, men, women, children, families, grandmas, granddads, you know, and they're all getting down to watch two men scrap in the middle of a cage. It's absolutely mad. Like, you wouldn't see that in the UFC. You wouldn't see someone going taking the nan to a couple of fights, you know. And
You're right, yeah.
And to have an Irishman as the face of that would just speak volumes about kind of the UK and Ireland's scene at the minute, I guess. Because imagine this: Will Fleury goes to middleweight again, gets his middleweight belt. Three-time world champion. There's probably one other guy who's done that in one, but the quality of one isn't. You know, the quality of one championship MMA isn't really. It's not like up there, is it? You know, the guys are probably good, but it's, you know, I'd probably throw Octagon above them. You put an Irishman on the face of that. You show all these knockout high reels, and then that could be their way back into the UK again. That could be back into Ireland again. I know that was something what Will was pushing for in the past few fights leading up to it, and talking to the promoters about it. But that would be a seriously good case to try and come back, because I highly doubt that a bunch of Irishmen wouldn't turn up to see the triple Irish champ fight in his home city. Sorry, I couldn't get my words out then.
Absolutely. I think they pretty much have the year mapped out, but there's nothing more that I'd love for them to come and put a card on in Ireland. I think it'd do well now, even now, but they'll just have to structure it right from a business perspective. They've also got the likes of Richie Smullen, Jack Maguire, and Dennis Frimpong, Aaron Abia bring a couple of 100 people over there. His fans are absolutely fucking lunatics. There's a few people. They could have put some big European fights on as well. But let's just touch on the others for a little bit. Dennis Frimpong's going to get back in the mix. Corey Fry, we've got Brian Manning in there. So it is doable, isn't it, boys? The Island card. Very doable now, but like I said, I think the roadmap's pretty much done for all of next year. But like, we've got Berlin, Poland, as Nathan said, a lot more cities. So it's just a case of as and when for the Ireland card. But speaking of Ireland and UK fighters, what about our lot in the Ultimate Fighting Championship? It's been a fucking good year, hasn't it? Really good year. We've got two that are number one contenders. One of them's got a title shot in a couple of weeks. Lerrone's fucking been fucked over. Let's have it right. He should be the man on that poster, not Diego Lopez. But yeah, there's a lot of them to cover. But let's just start there with Paddy and Justin in a couple of weeks. I'm just going to come out right and say that Paddy smokes him. I think he's all around for him style-wise, and Justin's not got that much left in the tank. Paddy's hungrier, bigger, stronger, more athletic, better jits. Game over for Justin. It's going to be sad to see him go out, get smoked by a scouser for an American perspective in it, but from our perspective, get up.
Yeah, I mean, I love Justin Gaethje. I'd be lying if I said I'm fully on that level of thought with whether this is just such a demolition. But Paddy's done it before, man. He's come out there and absolutely blitzed people, and where you were expecting it to be harder than it was, and then he just absolutely overwhelms them. It's going to be a really good fight. That's the main thing, and that's something that, to be honest, in 2025 the UFC lacked, was really good fights consistently. This is a great fight. This is a good card. I cannot wait to see this. This is one of the first UFC fights in a while where I've looked at and go, I cannot wait to see how this plays out. And it is going to be exciting because with someone like Gaethje, who has been so good for so long, there is that level of thought, at least in my head, where you think, well, what if one more night, Justin, you go out there and it just all falls into place and everything's perfect. And, almost like I want to say Fisievi did that with, and it just looked like a class above. in some of those fights, or you could get, you know, something a bit more like the Holloway fight where it was that, you know, and I actually saying that I forgot how the Holloway fight went, but it's one of them where you don't know what you're going to get sometimes with Justin.
I know what you're getting at.
And you know, he might roll it back one more time. Don't know, but Paddy should be the favourite because he's younger, he's fresher, he's got the momentum. It's gonna be a big one.
Yeah, I think with Paddy and Justin, I think Justin is a tough cookie for Paddy, but I think it's going to be a hard fight for Paddy. But Paddy subs him later on in the fight, round 4, round 5. I don't think it's going to get him out of there early because Justin's he's like a zombie, innit? He just kind of you know, he just kind of marches forward, swinging his punches, and I think I can probably see him dropping Paddy. You know, I could probably see him dropping Paddy, but having like a Charles Oliveira moment where he just kind of takes the fight back and then subs him out round 4. I can see it now. I'm going to put an accumulator on it. I'm going to put down for Paddy to get knocked down and to Paddy to sub him in round 4. I'm going to do it. I've called it here first. I think it is going to be a Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira kind of way the fight plays out. I think it's very tit for tat early on. With Justin just trying to punch his head in because that's what he does at this point in his career. He just tries to punch people's head in. That's how you describe his game plan. He's not really the most technical anymore. He just goes out there and he throws hands. And I think with Paddy, you kind of need to do that because when you play the technical game with Paddy, he's gonna outclass him. So he's gonna try and make it a bit of a dogfight, and he's gonna have success early on. And then I just kind of think out of nowhere, Paddy's gonna turn the whole thing around, get on his back, all she wrote. You know, he's gonna get on the mic. You thought I was fucking done for? Scousers don't get knocked out. You know, and then he's gonna have a moment. You know, it's gonna blow up all over social media, fucking Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Reels a lot, and then he's gonna get on the mic. Ilya, it's a boy here, you fucking chorizo. And then it once Ilya's sorted out his domestic situation, whatever's going on with his wife, he'll come back later on in the year. Paddy only fights once or twice a year anyway, max. So later on in the year, end of 2026, Ilya versus Paddy. I think that's it. I'm seeing.
Right. One thing, right, Nathan, it's just the fan in you is like, Justin, I just want one more performance. However, I disagree with you both because the style is all wrong for Justin. Like I said, Justin has got a load of fucking miles on the clock, right? The way you've just described the way he fights, Alex, is very robotic, very zombie. You wanted to get him into a dogfight. Paddy is the most awkward fucking one of the most awkward strikers in the UFC. How's he going to get fucking near him early on to drag it into a dogfight? He's too intelligent. I think he's going to fucking starch him. I think he might sub him. He very well could. But Paddy starches him, boys. Honestly, he fucking smokes him. Look how good Chandler looked in stages in the second Oliveira fight, yeah? And then Paddy fucking writ him off, boys. Writ him off like no tomorrow. Because I think our boys are a bit underestimated. I think and our coaches, I think they're a lot more intelligent than people give them credit for. And they do a lot of studying on these American fighters and these boys. And half of them are very, very basic. I'm not disputing that the likes of Holloway and Gaethje and all that top level boys, because they're all fucking top world-class fighters. But our boys are better. I think our boys just have that little extra edge. Might be a little bit biased, but the proof's in the pudding. Look what Lerone is doing now. Let's move on to that boy who should be number one contender. Let's talk about Lerone, the title fight that's not happening, that should be happening. But wow, that's probably a favourite. I think for UK, at least, that was knockout of the year, wasn't it? Come on. The way he's forced himself in number one contender shot against the golden boy that's coming through, the Bellator star that they've took while they're up to their fucking neck in shit. You know? Nathan, come on, talk to me, man, about Lerone.
It's one of that. I just go back to that he has been robbed of this, you know, and it is unfortunate to say because Diego Lopez, good fighter, that would be a good fight, I assume. But it was Murphy's shot, and that was the one there. And it's unfortunate that it's the way the UFC sort of operate now. It's not always the most deserving fighter gets the shot. Sometimes it's the one they feel can maybe sell a few more tickets, with the extortionate prices they charge. You're going to stick I think it's in Australia or whatever. Maybe you want Volkanovski to win.
Yeah.
You don't know what the plan is in terms of what he wants to do with the rest of his career. And because, he is approaching probably the end of it, because he's, a legendary fighter, but he's again got a lot of miles on the clock now and has probably lost a bit of a step, and that's nothing on him. He's still world class with that loss of step, but it's unfortunate for Lerone. It's tough to see, that there obviously are fights for him. There's loads of fights at featherweight, and you can figure out where you want to stick him. You can put him against anyone. And then maybe you give him the Evloev fight. It's one of them, and it could be a really tough fight, that. And obviously you will have you're not going to get easy fights at this point, but it's just when you feel like sometimes timing is everything, and that maybe, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I do feel like UFC have missed out on one here. And perhaps now the follow through is going to stall on everyone. And the way you fight at the top, it's once or twice a year. You're not fighting regularly. It's going to stall everything out a bit more, and that may just be a little bit of a momentum killer. And then it's going to be almost you're starting again from a much higher level, but he is going to have to start again now because of this. So really unfortunate. I think it's a poor decision from the UFC, because the fight's in Australia. So if you're worrying about the draw or whatever, you're fighting. It's you're going to sell out because it's Volkanovski in Australia. People want to see that. They want to see him anyway, and that's really what they should worry about. Obviously pay-per-views is important to them in America, but they're moving away from that model very quickly. So I think it's mainly about attendances, and if that's what it is, then it's a stupid decision. And because Lopez is great, but he shouldn't be fighting for Volkanovski for the belt in the next fight.
Yeah, I've got a hot take, mate. I don't think the first fight was that great. I stayed up all night. I'm a big Volkanovski guy. I stayed up all night, watched Paddy batter Chandler, was buzzing, over the moon. I was like, great, here we go. Volkan Diego Lopez, and I was just kind of a bit underwhelmed, to be honest. I don't get why they booked it again. It was all right. Like at the time, I was like, it's a good fight, this. But looking back in retrospect, it was okay. It was quite underwhelming. It was just quite underwhelming. I don't get why they've decided to book it again. I think even if they did decide to put Lerone in, Lerone is, like you said, Dan, he's forced himself up until a point where he's the number one contender and he's got eyes on him. I mean, after he beat Josh Emmett, it seemed like he picked up a lot more fans stateside since then. So people know of him, people know who he is. I've seen him on loads of interviews, YouTube vids, whatever, talking about his past and getting shot, etc. And it's got thousands upon thousands of likes. So I don't get why the UFC haven't just gone, oh, you know what, this is our route. You even had Volk calling him out on a video.
Yeah.
Lerone, I'm well proud of you, mate. Let's get it on in Down Under. And then, and it's just and it's just not happened. I think the UFC's played it safe a bit there. I think it's like what you said, Nathan. They think Diego Lopez is a big enough name to get kind of bums on seats, makes it hard enough for Volkanovski to put a graft in, and they're not taking that risk because Volk's beat him once before. And to me, that's just dog shit, because the UFC has always been about the best fighting the best, and he literally beat him 9 months ago. He literally beat him like 9 months ago, and now Lerone's here knocking on the door, waiting for his chance, and they've snubbed him. They've shut the door, turned him round, sent him on his merry way, and it's bad. It's terrible. They've snubbed him, robbed him.
It is. As for the first fight, it was a smart fight from Volkanovski. A very smart fight.
Yeah.
Lopez had one or two moments. He landed a couple of shots, but he's got a puncher's chance, the same as he has going into he had a puncher's chance, same as he has going into this one. Lerone's also a very smart fighter. Stylistic, like you think about Volkanovski and Lerone Murphy, it's a fucking chess match, and it could turn into a war. If it catches fire, it'll turn into a war. With Volkanovski and Lopez, Volkanovski knows that Lopez hasn't done championship distance at all in his career. B is scared. He's one of the best grapplers going. He just doesn't fucking use it. He likes to stand and bang. So he knew that he was in no danger of being dragged there. So it's a safer, you're right, Alex, it's a lot safer fight for Volkanovski. They really want Volkanovski going out and being in a war with Lerone, and you know what I mean, Lerone taking his prize in his home country. But I do feel for Lerone, because I don't want him to end up being in a tough So if Volkanovski wins, then it's going to be a vacant title, isn't it? So Lerone would then be fighting for a vacant title, which I think is pretty shit. But if that's the case, then the next man in line was Evelev anyway. So I wouldn't mind that. The two best guys in the world are fighting still fighting each other for the title in that respect. I just hope nothing happens in between, or no spanner gets through in the works now where it delays anything for another 12 months or any unfortunate luck. Because Lerone's been in the UFC 6 years or something. He's been out of that 6 years, two of those through injury. They've been very unfortunate. So touch wood. You know what I mean? We know how the MMA universe works. When there's been a delay, something else fucking happens down the line and throws another spanner in the works. So touch wood, nothing happens there. But we're all agreed. Well, we're not agreed on the first title fight. We are kind of agreed on the second title fight. Where Vol's going to play it smart. Lopez might have to try and do two things extra out the bag, but other than that, Vol's going to play it smart. Our other boys that have come into the UFC and are already into the UFC, girls and boys, sorry, not to forget the females, because they've had a good year, a few of them, that have come into the UFC and done really well. Modi Bukowskis, want to give a shout out to him. Chris Duncan, what a fucking year he's had. Chris Leroy Duncan, what a year he's had. What a few years he's had on the slide, quietly. He's under-promoted to fuck. Ian Garrett, what a year he's had. Sam Patterson, Shauna Bannon, she had a terrific win this year, got herself a fight at the night bonus. Luke Riley on his debut. Shem taking an absolute fucking monster matchup on like fucking 6 weeks notice or whatever it was. So fair play to Shem, we'll always back you. Nathan Fletcher, bit of hit and miss this year. Then we had Louis Lee Scott from Manchester Top Team getting into the UFC on Contender Series. Curtis Campbell, Chanel Dyer, who lost her fight, but that was a fucking war. We've also got Kennedy Freeman that's yet to make her debut. Have I missed anyone there? Really, that stand out.
Always a shout out to Davy Grant.
Davy Grant as well. Yeah. It's been a fucking busy. It's been a busy year, boys. But I think I've pretty much. I didn't really want to miss anybody out.
There's so many fighters.
I know I have. Yeah,
800 fighters in the UFC.
Yeah, this is the point that it's leading me on to. It's a fucking massive year, and this could be our biggest year yet. We need to start having more UFC shows here. They need a base here. They like this going to fucking Abu Dhabi all the time because they're putting money up. We need a UFC like a PR here, like they have in China and the States and all that. It could be a hotbed for the UFC here, couldn't it? And yes, Nathan, 2026, it could be even bigger.
I think it's all varied. I sort of don't mind the fact they don't have like a PI here or anything like that, just because then it's an organic rise for these guys that are coming up, and I kind of still love that element of it's not just all UFC branding on everything. It's not just this one monopoly. I know that's how the UFC is now, and how MMA is. It's this where everyone's sort of fighting towards getting to this one point. But I love the fact these guys are coming up through small shows, through, they're making names. Look at a guy like Curtis Campbell. I mean, he made his way through that small scene, really just excelled, built up his own fan base. Because, I mean, you said about some guys being underpromoted. I don't know if there's a fighter in the UFC that is promoted. They're sort of just there, and it's get it in off your own back. Paddy was maybe the exception to the rule, but again, that wasn't the UFC really. They gave him the platform a little bit, but that was more like Barstool and all that sort of stuff. Outside of him, I don't know if anyone gets promoted. They can worry about, will Lerone Murphy ever draw people to want to go to the show? Why don't you bloody promote the fighters then? That might help. It is Dana White's job. But yeah, so I kind of like the idea of these guys coming up. But I mean, look, any investment into the scene is a good investment, and I'm looking forward to see what these guys can do. And yeah, we'd love to see more cards here. Would love them to reduce the ticket prices as well. And that would be a perfect storm for 2026, because there are so many UK talents, as you mentioned, and I've got the feeling we've probably forgotten some, and that's just because there's so many now. There's just an absolute overload of those guys coming in. I mean, Louis Sutherland as well. He's got a big fight coming up, I believe, or he's aiming for a big fight. So there's a few out there, and some are really breaking through and starting to make that case for themselves. I mean, Luke Riley, 2026 he's going to have, hopefully.
Yeah, big time. I mean, the Luke Riley knockout was probably the most memorable knockout in recent memory, and it was his debut, so just speaks volumes, doesn't it? And but I think we're going to see a load of guys coming through next year. I mean, I've got a bit of a list here of some of the guys from Cage Warriors who I think are going to make the jump over. Justin Burlinson from the Northeast, from TFT. He was over in, I think it was Abu Dhabi, Qatar or Abu Dhabi. Either one of them. Either way, he was there. He was trying to get a word in with the matchmakers, made weight in case anyone pulled out. And every time I've seen someone pull a stunt like that, they usually end up in the UFC not long too afterwards, because I think they kind of respect the hustle a little bit. So, and he put on the fight of the year in Cage Warriors anyway against James Sheenan for the middleweight world championship, and that was a banger of a fight. So I don't think he'd be a bad signing. He's a little bit. I don't think he's on the younger side. I think he may be kind of early 30s, just a front finish. And I know that they're not really looking out for that. May throw him on a contender series or whatever. You had Harry Hardwick. He made his UFC debut in Paris, and obviously it kind of went tits up for him. Wasn't what he wanted. But he's a good. I think he's got it in him to turn it all around, put on a decent win streak, and get ranked within the next year. It just all depends on how the next fight plays out. Because if the next couple of fights don't go his way either, he's in hot shit then, isn't he? So interesting to see where that goes. Because I'm a big fan of the Hardwicks. Like I've followed him quite extensively over the past couple of years. I wouldn't mind seeing possibly George in the UFC too, but he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Just lost to a flying armbar. But that kind of, if he could put together a couple of wins, it'd probably be there. But again, he's early 30s, mid 30s. I'm pretty sure he's in that age range. So maybe they'd have to throw him in another contender series fight. But I know they're not looking out for. They're looking for younger contenders, really, but I'd like to see George on there. Joanny Scott, I think...
Fighting for the title again, him?
Yeah. Now, if he can win that, I can't think of any other flyweights on the Cage Warriors roster what UFC potential. I think if there's going to be any flyweights out of Cage Warriors, it's going to be Joanny Scott. Who else? I don't know, Ian. Here's a bit of a hot one. If George Staines could potentially put on a fight.
Oh, yeah, George Staines, definitely. Yeah. So, sorry to interrupt. The names that I've got for the Cage Warriors, and 3 of them are next gen. So, Adam Cullen, he gets 2. If he can get 1, so if they fight in March at Manchester, they put on a statement. The contender series or whatever comes up later in the year. Chris Price as well, who's got 8-1 now. Francis Breen, George Staines, Shea Ingram's another one that I like there on that roster. There's a good few names. The FCC roster as well. The FCC is less littered. Cage Warriors has got obviously a bigger roster. So the FCC, Callum Connor Walsh, Jordan Rutherford, they're probably the main 3 that you could see getting bigger opportunities. And because FCCs only do 3 moderate-sized shows a year and they're on UFC Fight Pass, the promotion's massive for them. And it is full on. Like they put all into it. They go to the gyms and interview every single fighter and stuff leading up to it, which is good. But the Cage Warriors have actually got some good shows and some good title fights lined up. FCC have. The start of next year, I think there's 3. Let me just double check my notes before I give out the wrong information. So, Fight Star Championship would be the first one, February 14th, Bradford. Now they have just had a good title fight on at the Indigo. Matty Byfield was in that heavyweight championship fight. Kingdom, the 21st of February, they had the return of Liam McCracken on their card last year. They're doing great things. FCC, 7th March. Apex Combat, first ever show. Jordan Barton, Ron Murphy's best bud. They're starting theirs. That's going to be a good one. ECC, 7th of April. So for the first quarter of the year, domestically, we've got a good run. Cage Warriors in there. Oktagon have announced all their shows. They've got shows every fortnight. But long may it continue on the British MMA scene. But to finish it, the main one I wanted to speak about out of the entirety of the British MMA scene is Mr. Tom Aspinall, his recent operation on his eye. In the heavyweight division, Alex Pereira, the White House card, and all the variables to it. Where do we sit on it? right now, Nathan? Obviously, we wish the best. We wish the best to Tom, but where do we sit on it? How do you think it's going to play out?
I don't know if it's the best move is sort of the best move for Tom Aspinall is probably not the best career move maybe for optics, but I think he just needs to take all the time he needs, because especially when it's your eye, that's paramount to anything. It's gonna, if you rush that, I mean, as Michael Bisping warned him, there's a real risk if you rush back and you're not able to see out that eye again, and it can mess up yourself in fights, and you end up losing fights. So I think the best move for Tom Aspinall, he's still pretty young. Take the time you need. Don't rush in. Don't mess up your whole career just to try and, oh, no, I'm going to beat Cyril Gane. No, watch, don't do that. Let the division play out, because it's almost a more emphatic statement when there most likely will be probably an interim title fight. And I assume Cyril Gane will be involved in that. It's a more emphatic statement to come back from your injury fresh. And, you're never 100% in MMA, but, 80, 90%. And beating that guy and showcasing, this is what I'm about. Don't worry about anything you've heard this last year or two. I'm still about this. I think he's got to take his time. Whatever happens, whether it be Alex Pereira, whether it be Cyril Gane, whether it be someone else, he's still, for me, the best heavyweight in the UFC, the best heavyweight in the world. He just needs to take his time. He cannot rush back.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there, Nathan. And the whole thing reminds me of why I hate just the internet in general. You see so many memes and people talking crap about Tom and and then you're just mate, he's gonna starch him in the rematch. And I agree, just take all the time he needs to recover, get as healthy as possible, and then just come back and just starch Cyril Gane or whoever it is, if they do have an interim title fight, just whenever. And when he comes back, it'll be a glorious day in MMA. And all of the gobshites on the internet will be put to rest. All the John Jones bum lickers and everything like that. It's disgusting. It just reminds me of why I hate the internet sometimes, and how everyone's opinion is usually shit. So, but yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it anyway.
Absolutely, because it's an eye injury and how serious it is, and not just career ending. It can deteriorate your life in a good aspect. I mean, Bisping has fun with it now, but that could have ended up a lot more serious. Like your eyes connected, it can just go a lot of different ways. Bisping's actually quite lucky. He's had a lot of operations as well, so he's very lucky with how it's played out. So, yeah, stay out for as long as he needs. In an ideal world, the UFC book Manchester Co-op November next year, or this year, sorry. In the meantime, Alex Pereira moves up to heavyweight, fights Cyril Gane for the interim. Pereira fucking renders him unconscious, and then you make Pereira versus Aspinall for the heavyweight champion, the undisputed heavyweight championship at the end of the year. That not just that. I think that'd be extra sweet in terms of bank account for Tom as well. What a fucking that'd be the biggest fight, the biggest earner you'll ever have. Pereira in his hometown. But that was how I wanted to lead it on to ask you, because that's my bold shout for next year. I think Alex Pereira will win the interim heavyweight title, and it'll fight Tom Aspinall. That's my out there bold shout. So what's yours, Nathan? What's your bold shout for 2026?
I was leaning on this one. I wanted to give him a shout anyway, because I know he's Cameroonian, but he's pretty much, he trains at a Manchester top team, Atiba Gauthier. This is a real fighter. He's fighting in January. I'll say, and I've come up with this take about 10 seconds ago. I think he will be, by the end of next year, he will be scheduled to fight Hamzat Chimaev for the middleweight belt.
Love it. Fucking love that. Yes.
By the end of this year, not next year, but
yeah.
Not the end of 2026.
Yeah. We're still early in a couple of days yet. We're still getting warmed up. So.
Yeah. My bold shout is it's not even that, but actually now, you know what? I'm sending it. We're gonna have the Paddy versus Ilya mega fight by the end of 2026. That's
we're
all right. We're sounding good.
Taster. What about Oktagon boys? What shouts do we think there? Do we think it's Now I know it's been talked about, and I know like it's like it feels like a little bit of a pipe dream right now, sort of. But do we think it's a bold shout to say we will see Muradov versus Flora for the middleweight championship this year?
I don't think
I
it
know I
is.
said next year
I
again.
don't think it is. That's my hot take. That would be mine. I think we see Will Ferry fight for that middleweight belt. I think it happens. I think it's a big stadium show. I think it's one of the big ones in Stadion Eden or wherever they intend to go. Maybe Frankfurt even, if they want to be a bit spicier. The thing with Muradov is you can sort of put him anywhere. He's that much sort of a name if it is him that's fighting for it. Obviously, there's a world where we see Yotko win, and then it's Yotko Muradov, and then it's whoever wins that. And so there's a lot you can do with that, to be honest. But I think it happens. I think it main events a stadium show.
Now, you've robbed my bold prediction there. And so the one I'm going to go with is I bet they never do a celebrity fight ever again. That's my...
They're already doing one.
Oh, no! What they did?
It's two celebrities this time, though.
Oh, right, right.
That's
That's a lot better. I can get behind that one. Instead of sending in some poor fella.
I can understand it. I can understand it from a business sense. So, but what I will say is that fight in Prague last week, MMA won that night. That's all I'm going to say. MMA was the winner that night.
Poor fella.
But there's probably one or two more bold predictions I could make for Octagon. Dennis Frimpong to move up to welterweight and win a title there instead of lightweight. I don't know why. Something just tells me that. He'll probably watch this, or I'll send it to him and he'll be like, I doubt it. If he fucking wants lightweight, then he can still make lightweight well. But yeah, I don't know. There's a few bold shouts. If I actually went in deep and thought about it, I could make a list of bold shouts. Luke Riley, I think he could be in the top 10 by the end of 2026. That's another bold shout. Louis Lee Scott could be at bantamweight as well. Fuck me, that division's pretty dead, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, outside the top five who have fought each other about 20,000 times, fucking, there's a gap there for bantamweight.
I don't think it's necessarily a bold one if I say D'Alessandro to be a champ by the end of the year.
Yeah, because she's like 3-0 now, and this will be a bold one. But D'Alessandro to fight Kinahan by the end of the year, maybe 0-2 Prague next year. Give Kinahan a couple of fights. D'Alessandro, Kinahan, boom. But yeah, that one would be a bit out there anymore. Ian Gary to be champ, that's not really out there, is it? But it's if he will get the fight because he's got the fucking personality of an
MVP as well. What's MVP doing?
I know, like he's still begging for fights at welterweight. He's one we forgot in the fucking list before. He's just had an MVP year, hasn't he? It's not been fucking wow or anything like that.
Both him and Gary are just like, I'd struggle seeing them getting title shots because they're so like contendery, if that makes any sense. And they're very much like, right, if you beat this guy, and the gatekeeper is probably the word actually, but they're still, especially in Gary, still young enough to really just slowly build up. But because their styles are not so exciting at a higher level, they're still so skilled, but because they're so skilled, they end up neutralizing a lot of what the opponent does. Hence why they end up having quite boring fights, which is just the truth, unfortunately. So it's tough to see them getting that push to get a title shot. But late notice call-ups may be their friend. You never know.
Yeah, I was watching an interview of an MVP this afternoon, and he was basically saying he doesn't plan on sticking around for much longer. He doesn't really have title aspirations or anything like that, which I think fair enough. He comes to the UFC later on in life. He just wants the big kind of matchups. But I think if you're there, you may as well just send it and try to go for the top. Like he's already there. Why not just send it and see what happens? But I don't know. A few weeks, on a few podcasts ago, we were saying how we should try aim for big fights. Like big names like Shara Bullet. That was a banger of a matchup. But I just think if he's not planning on sticking around for much longer, just send it and try to go to the top, see what happens. If you fall short, you fall short. Oh well. If you make it, buzz in. So interesting to see how that plays out this year. I wonder if he sticks around. But actually, I've got a bold one for you. MVP retires by this time next year.
That is a bold one. That is a bold one. But I like it as well. The ones that we didn't mention was a Great Britain top team lads, Nathaniel Wood and Lonnie Cav.
Oh, of
As well.
course,
Lonnie Cav's had a mixed bag this year, but they are two contenders. They're well in the fucking mix. Lonnie could have been getting in the top 15, got beat. Nathaniel Wood's fucking well and truly in the mix for an absolute monster fight next.
And Arnold Allen. Did we say Arnold Allen?
And Arnold Allen. See,
He's fighting
all
John
our
Silver,
guys are
isn't
like
he?
contenders now. This is
That's
what I
a big
mean.
fight.
Like,
It's a huge fight next.
the prospects of this year now with the even the ones or twos that we've missed out, like the caliber of matchups that they're all getting, not just the two that are getting the title fights or due to in Larone's case, but everybody else is just behind. And we could, if the MMA gods are with us for the UK, we could end up seeing like a British title fight. Say Lerone does win the title, he fights Nathaniel Wood for the title, or Arnold Allen defends it against one of them in Manchester co-op. Whoa, imagine that. You know,
Yeah.
and I know obviously, like we said, we like the small all scene and the grassroots here, but they have that all over the world now. LFA have got it in America and stuff like that. But I just think for the UFC that don't really be seen to be pumping that much money back into the sport other than the UFC Fight Pass, I think they should have a UFC PI, and it shouldn't just be. It would obviously cause a lot of problems, but it should be included for maybe the champions of the promotions on UFC Fight Pass, not just every fighter that fights on UFC Fight Pass, but maybe the champions of, like, the champions at Cage Warriors in FCC, and then every single UFC fighter. You know what I mean? Just like they do at the PIs in America and China and stuff like that. I just think it's a good idea because it's a massive stronghold. They keep going on about how fucking great the fucking UK is, dog, and da-na-na. It's like, well, show it then, man. Come and invest here. Put a big fucking massive unit here for all the boys and the lasses to train and make it into what you've got in America. You know what I mean? Give us a fucking Apex Centre for crying out loud. Yeah. Come on.
And make it affordable for fans to come to your fight night.
Yes. And that's the main thing, because Oktagon do their prices at the cheap $50 for a ticket, for a standard ticket. Can't complain at that.
Yeah.
Their rings,
300 quid.
It's ridiculous. Their cage side prices, Nave. So say 300 quid for a cage side ticket. When you write your noses on the cage, that's worth it, innit? For 14 fights or whatever you're getting, that's great value. But they're charging that for up in the sticks. You know, and you're having Brian's smelly armpit and his fucking dodgy missus Sharon giving it large, and it's just not ideal, is it? You know, not to slag any of the MMA community and fans off, but we've all been there. But yeah, boys, it's going to be a movie again this year. We'll wait for some more announcements. HBO, undeniable, etc., etc. Do we have any bold shouts for HBO?
I don't know. I think, I mean, it's not bold, but we're going to definitely see more titles introduced, and you know where that lands and who ends up fighting on those. I think Ryan Howard runs it back, and I've forgotten the fella's Smith. Howard runs it back with Smith, not Alex, not me.
Yeah,
Paul Smith. He runs that back with him, because that was an incredible fight. And I think we also see, in that division, I think those guys, actually, that sort of trio of people, if they want to, all go pro. Liam Molyneux, Paul Smith, and Ryan Howard, and we all see that culminates at the end of the year with those guys all having pro fights. And then look, you can build the division around that. I wouldn't even be surprised if I suppose they'll probably want them to have a win before you put a title on it in the pro scene, but eventually you can, and I think those guys are really gonna lift up some on the lighter weight classes. They're going to be a real big attraction for those who want to see it, because people are going to want to watch those guys throw hell for leather for however long, and however long. I feel like those fights are going to get shorter and shorter every time. From here on out, we've seen enough decisions. I think you're going to start seeing some knockouts over there, and then it's going to just join in with the rest of the card, isn't it? Because it's just straight knockouts. Still so much to look forward to, and that Zed Williams, Gareth McCormack fight, just I circle that one because we know it's happening, and two because that is just ideal. That is a great, and it's great to see guys who have come up and been on 1 and 2, or at least been on one of them, and you just see that sort of. I love seeing that, especially with a fresh promotion. The guys have got momentum and they're really starting to generate it now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just touching on the Paul Smith, Liam Molyneux, and Ryan Howard trio, that right there, when you think of the glory days of the UFC when you had Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, when they was all in the primes, and it was the trio of violence. To me, that AMI scene, them three right there, is like the HBO golden gooses, and I would love to see any three of them fight each other on any given on any show, whatever. I think, depending on how the rematch goes with Ryan, I'd love to see Liam Molyneux versus Paul as well. I'd just be interested to see how that plays out. And I think why their fights have stood out so much, even though the decisions where everybody else is getting rocked and dropped, these guys are quite a bit younger, you know. Ryan's what, 21, 20? Liam's the same. He's about 22, 20. He's about 22, 23, something like that. Paul, I'm not sure how old those, but these are all younger guys who are all looking to make a statement within the scene. They're all looking to try claim it for their own, you know, and they're just not letting each other up, and that's why, and that's why they're not finishing each other, because there's just something different. There's just something different about that trio, and I love it. I love it. I don't think Ryan Howard's going to go pro. Because when we spoke to Dan, he wants to see a few certain things and a few certain adjustments from Ryan, and we'll probably see that across from this year. But in terms of a bold prediction for HBO, I'm going to say Conrad Stadler comes back before the year's out.
Yeah, you damn well know it as a fighter. You've always got that itch that you need to scratch, especially when you've got the record that he's got. He's a fucking animal. But just I was going to interrupt you, but you was just flowing, man. Your passion was intense as always, bro. Yeah. That deadly trio that you just mentioned there, all fighting each other. There's going to be amateur hybrid prize fighters. So they'll get a wage, they'll get 500 quid, and they'll get a pro contract out of it as well. So that might be the weight class for it. You know what I'm saying?
You got three guys ready to go right there.
Big things ahead, boys. But we're all locked in. We've got dates locked in all the way through the year. We're on several platforms now, doing our thing on the comms, and we're just looking forward to it, out, boys, and another chapter in the journey, man.
Yeah, can't wait. Cannot wait. It's going to be a big year. Absolutely. Lots of things settle down, and bring it on.
It's like you said, mate. It's going to be a movie, and I'm all for it. You know, last year was as I said on the last one. The last year was a bit of a turning point for me. You know, meeting you guys, having a crack at the AMI scene myself, and then now this year I just kind of feel like this is the year where we take over. You know, so let's go. Let's have it, the boys. I'm all for it. Full force to the world.
Let's go, baby. And as always, we're sponsored by Hez Boxing Equipment. Get up.